Morning, everyone. This is a public speaking brief of servant leaders in the Army. The risk assessment is low, but there are always hazards. In case of electrocutions, we do have the outlets covered. In case of an active shooter, we'll run, hide, and fight. But before we fight, we'll also barricade this door. And if the active shooter comes to the door, we'll then fight the active shooter. In case of bad weather or severe weather, we'll exit out through this door, head down the hallway. It's your first door to your right. That's the storm shelter. In case of a fire, we'll exit out through this door, go down the hallway to the first door to your left. That's the exit. We'll meet up in the parking lot and get accountability. Now, with that being said, thank you, Staff Sergeant Larry, for attending this brief. And I will ask every one of you guys to keep the questions at the end of this brief. Like I said, good morning. I'm Specialist Ubita, and I will be conducting this brief of servant leaders in the Army. So, one thing that everybody wants in the Army is leaders and followers. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of followers, but the main point today is a unique type of leader. This unique leader put so much purpose in the Army. This leader puts the needs of others above their own. This leader builds other individuals. This leader is a servant leader. So, I'm going to read this quote of Sergeant First Class Crooks. He said, "I always look at people as people. I have never had to use my rank to get anybody to do anything. I'm proud of that. People first will make it easier for me to execute my leadership style. I've taken flack for it in the past, but it's been successful. I've always gotten the job done, and I walk away with being respected." That's what Sergeant First Class Nicholas Crooks of the 1st Cavalry Division said. Why is servant leadership important in the Army, especially in these days? Well, because people think that soldiers are like robots, when really they're just people themselves. We just come from all types of different places. It's a bunch of diversity. But as a servant leader, you are self-aware of what your team can bring to the table. The main goal of this leader is to serve. Having self-awareness, the leader knows the strengths and weaknesses of their team. When issues arise, this leader will put all the attention to the individual or to the group that has a conflict. This leader will put everything on the table for them. He will listen, or he or she will listen. The leader will listen and will give important feedback to them, to the individual, to the group. The goal of this leader is to build a strong foundation. It's not the short term. It's about the long term. When you are tasked out to a job, or you're tasked out in general, you may not like it, but this leader will persuade you to see the bigger picture. the bigger picture. What is the bigger picture? It's something bigger than yourself. It's something bigger than us. This leader will take your feedback, acknowledge it, and put it into consideration. This leader isn't the type of leader to demand. This leader will come up to the team with a task and say, hey, how can we do this? How can we make this job easier and get the job done right, doing the right things, the right way? Then, this leader motivates the team because he's taking the feedback. He's taking everything into consideration, putting it into action. And that's what builds the morale. It's not just to demand and execute. For example, say I'm Sergeant Ubita and I got my own squad. And I'm like, man, I said to empty out these connexes, and y'all ain't do it. So what type of leadership is that? It's not a good leader. Obviously, my fellow peers aren't going to respect me or have even trust in me. But let's say I'm Sergeant Ubita once again. I'm like, hey, so I know we gotta take out all the stuff from the Connex, but let's find an easier way. Let's get the 4K out. Let's get all this stuff out. Let's knock it out so we can go home. Y'all got any ideas besides the 4K? And they give me their feedback, and I take that into consideration because they might have a better plan than I do than just bringing out the 4K. They're like, hey, Sarge, we don't need the 4K. So, and boom. We get the job done easier and in good manner. So, let me start off with this one. Teamwork makes the dream work. The servant leader inspires you, gives you direction, gives you a purpose. When all that comes together, the team will be motivated. The team will do anything for the leader because this leader, as a transformational leader as well, will be there with the soldiers or the individuals, the group, helping them out, not just watching them from the side or just giving them that demand and telling them to execute. So when the team is motivated, the job gets done easier. Everybody's having fun, doing everything safely, obviously having a good time. And that reduces stress. Because when you're stressed out, you're going to do the job wrong. And people might get hurt. People might die. It depends on what type of job it is. The simplest job. It's all to the small detail that the servant leader pays attention to. The big details, yes, but it's the small details because we as human beings, the small details will change us. So, like I said, when a team is motivated, there's no I in team unless the A is capitalized, right? But the team is motivated and the team is in sync. If the team is not in sync, you got some Joes over there, they aren't helping out. You try to give them the bigger purpose. You try to persuade them. Hey man, come on. You ain't gonna help your battle buddy out. I'm in here too. I'm here to put in work too. So this leader is a good persuader. This leader knows, like I said, he's self-aware of what his soldiers or subordinates the individual, the group, his team can do. And like I said, it reduces stress, right? Okay. And so when it reduces stress, the peer, the subordinate, the soldier, the individual, the group does not have to go home at the end of the day thinking, oh man, we did some crap job. Like, they're not mad at the job that they did. They'll actually be happy of what they did. Because at the end of the day, the servant leader will acknowledge and value the subordinates, the soldiers, the individual, the group, the team. When the team is working, the servant leader is also putting in his work. But he's not just also putting in work. He gives it his 115%. Why is that? Because he's being self-aware. He's finding out the strengths of his team. He's finding out the weaknesses of his team. The servant leader is also a transformational leader. He encourages others to do the same as themselves. The servant leader has integrity, has honesty. Without honesty or integrity, you will not gain the respect from your subordinates, the soldiers, the individual, the team. This leader, if he finds a subordinate in the team that's not in sync with the team, will try to go down to the root of the problem and see what's wrong. Take feedback, take stuff into consideration. This leader will provide the resources in order for the team to achieve its goal. And what do I mean by the servant leader will value its team, acknowledging what they do? I'll give you an example. Hard day at work, at the motor pool. LMTV gets stuck. Record team comes in. They say it's no job. Okay. But what they don't know is that servant leader is going to congratulate them and thank them so many times. So, as Army University Press states, their subordinates in turn observe, my apologies everyone, observe and emulate the actions of their servant leaders and begin leading by example themselves. And the title of that was the NCO of the Army University Press from March 24, 2017. The servant leader in the Army is a vital component to the welfare of soldiers, a non-commissioned officer, as it states in the creed of the non-commissioned officer. All soldiers are entitled to outstanding leadership. I will provide that leadership. I know my soldiers and I will always place their needs above my own. And that's in the creed of the non-commissioned officer. The NCO, as a servant leader, builds their subordinates, educates them, and takes care of all their needs. By having humility towards the subordinates, that gives the subordinate the courage to open up to the leader and lets the leader know what he can work on. By that, building trust and respect. In return, these subordinates will be inspired to see the bigger picture and to achieve the goal. In summary, the servant leader is a unique type of leader. by serving. That's all they do. That's all we do as soldiers, is we serve. They also encourage others to do the same by having integrity, honesty, duty, respect, trust, personal courage, selfless service. Don't get me wrong. This is not the only type of leader in the Army. But it is the best one right now. There are many types of leaders. And I'm not saying, oh yeah, this is the perfect one. But this one actually takes account for other humans. As all leaders do, yes. But some leaders, let's be real, some of them don't care because they already have rank and they forgot where they came from. So they'll just leave the subordinate in the dust. You can't keep up, it's your fault. But this leader won't. If there aren't any questions right now, then my public speaking brief is done. Once again, thank you, Staff Sergeant Larry, for coming to the brief. I am Specialist Jupita. This is the public speaking brief of servant leaders in the Army. This concludes my public speaking brief.